Tonight, from Salzburg, Austria, an ABC News event, Julie Andrews returns 50 years later for the untold story of The Sound of Music. Here now, from that famous mountaintop, Diane Sawyer.
Good evening and welcome, as tonight we take you on an amazing journey beginning right here on the famous hill at the foot of the Alps, where 50 years later, you can still hear the sound of music.
Come with us now to the ancient town with the towering castles. At the foot of the mountains with the rolling river. It's where Mozart was born. 150,000 people live in Salzburg. But 6.5 million tourists arrive here every year. And most are in search of the story that reminds you to find your own dream. Families come to reenact the joyful dance, shot for shot. We see fans imagining themselves inside their favorite scenes. You know, the ones that lift the heart. On the Sound of Music tour buses, young and old dress as their favorite characters, singing along. From all over the planet to that little gazebo where Liesel and Rolf were 16 going on 17. And there is someone else who has arrived in Salzburg, the actress with the astonishing voice, the luminous face. 50 years later, Julie Andrews, 79. She meets up with us at a treasured place, a terrace by a river filled with so many memories.
Isn't it pretty? I think this was actually my favorite location.
Her favorite location. In the movie, this house was used as the set for the backyard of the Von Trapp home. It's the place where a high-spirited nun frees 7 children from stultifying rules. Dressed in play clothes, out of curtains, they go canoeing, excited when their father comes home. At least, that's what I remember after falling in love with the movie long ago. But Julie Andrews remembers something else, what was really happening outside the frame. Watch these rarely seen home movies shot by the parents of the children.
Just as we were about to shoot, the second AD came up to me and said, "Can I just tell you something? The little one doesn't swim." I said, "So could you fall forward from the boat and get her as quickly as possible?" I said, "Well, yes." And of course I fell backwards, not forward. Because the boat was rocking. You just see a pair of feet disappearing.
I saw some tape of her coming up going.
Yeah, well, yes, and people were diving in to get her. She was very brave.
You did 4 takes.
4 times they have to fall in the water, dry off, fall again. Behind the scenes, we see Julie Andrews huddled in towels, a bucket used to get her wet for retakes.
Did you get dried off?
No, I know up here they kept wetting us down to match.
And somehow all this work and craft began to shape a message about courage, choosing hope even when your life gets hard. A message that would arc across every generation.
50 years later.
50 years. It's unbelievable, Diane. I do not know where the last 20 years went. I could believe 30, but not 50, surely. It's a joke.
The Sound of Music isn't just about being joyful. It's about achieving joy. It's about
finding joy, yeah.
What will my future be? I wonder.
The work on the film had actually begun months earlier in Hollywood.
There were 3 months of rehearsal.
Yes.
Everything will turn
Laying down the songs.
Yes, well, everything.
So by the time director Robert Wise brought his crew of 250 people to Austria, they were ready to work 6 days a week, dawn to midnight.
6:30 in the morning, you were in hair and makeup and getting your hair colored repeatedly all the time.
Yes.
I thought I detected different colors occasionally.
Well, maybe you did. That was kind of by an accident. Bob thought that maybe some highlights would be great, and the highlights came out kind of orange, and so they decided, oh, forget that, just be blonde all over.
And here is another rare piece of video out of the vault. Listen.
Every morning you greet me.
This is the real singing voice of Christopher Plummer, singing Edelweiss himself.
And bright, you
Now, listen to the sound from the final movie.
every morning you greet me.
Plummer now has the voice of a professional singer they brought in to help strengthen his notes.
Clean and bright.
Every scene in the movie, so difficult it had been sketched and timed in Hollywood, and no scene more arduous than the one they were going to try to shoot high up in the Alps, on that mountain filled with music. Tourists search for it, but it's not listed in any guidebook, so we set out to find it and take you there. So here's what we've heard. It's out of town, that you can't find it on any Google map, so don't even bother trying. We drive west. 6 miles later, we actually leave Austria and cross the border into Germany. Signs point in every direction, but no mention of the famous hill. And as we climb, our ears are popping.
Wow. Those cows have got to mean something, right?
The land here is privately owned by farmers, so reluctant to let outsiders in, the movie studio has to pay them to let our cameras up the path.
So here we go.
Halfway up, sheep.
Can you hear the chime? Hello.
We keep going. It's steep and a little gooey from rain.
A little mud. It's okay. Wow, is this it? Is this it?
Here we are, the view exactly as it was a half a century ago. Though one thing is very different for us on the day we arrive.
Even though it is a beautiful day today, it was not 50 years ago. In fact, it was rain, it was wind, the temperatures in the 50s. Everyone was freezing, and they only had the sun come out for about 20 minutes to get that shot.
Turns out beautiful Austria is the 11th rainiest country on earth.
So I went to your mountain. I want to know how you did that.
How I got up there?
Oh,
well,
my-
it rained a lot.
The tarp over your head, freezing cold, waiting for the clouds to part.
I know. We actually went up the mountain in big open carts pulled by oxen. I would sit on top of all the camera equipment, and then they'd hoist me up, and up we'd go.
Spoiler alert, skip this part if you only want the movie magic in your head. But if you look closely here, for a moment the sky is clear blue for a wide shot. Then, in the shot in the meadow, you can see clouds closing in. At times, the grass is yellow, but in the DVDs, they electronically paint it green. And those birch trees?
If you're looking for those birch trees, you're not going to find them. They were brought in for the scene, then taken right back out. Something else you won't find here, that brook with the water that trips and falls over stones on its way, that was brought in by the movie studio too. Plastic filled with water and vanished. And do you remember the scene where she's running back to the Abbey, leans down, picks up her clothes and goes in this direction? I'm telling you, it is steep. This is not easy.
But on that day we were shooting on the mountain, we're lucky. We have small, silent drones getting the shot. Back in 1965, Julie Andrews was doing battle with a helicopter that kept blowing up a tornado of wind.
This giant helicopter came at me sideways with a very brave cameraman hanging out the side, where the door would be normally. And the helicopter would shoot me, and I'd come from one end of the field, and he'd come from the other, and I'd make that big turn. And then he'd go around me to go back and start again, and I'd run to the other end. But every time he went around me, the downdraft from the jets would fling me down into the grass.
I heard that occasionally you curse like a sailor.
I do. No, I do, and I did.
Quiet, please.
But somehow, out of that duel with the helicopter, the 9 takes, the long hours, and the cold, in 20 minutes of sunshine, the giant speakers up in the trees began playing that music.
One was suddenly released, maybe, from waiting and waiting. I don't know. But these huge, big speakers in the trees were blasting this beautiful music.
And for all of us, an indelible moment, celebrating the simple joy of being young and alive.
The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years.
Next, what well-known movie star was considered for the role of Maria? And the secrets behind the scenes to Do Re Mi.
What?
When we come back. We continue with the untold story of the Sound of Music. Once again, Diane Sawyer.
A drop of golden sun.
Here it is, one of the songs children can sing pretty much everywhere around this planet. It's also been called the first music video. A 28-year-old woman, 7 children singing through 9 locations in 4 minutes. As the music they had recorded before blasted out of the speakers, listen to director Robert Wise making sure they land this big moment on the precision beat.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, go.
Originally, Do Re Mi was titled simply First Singing Lesson. There were sketches, and every single beat of music timed exactly, so that the actors had to pedal fast or drop behind. It took 2 months of rehearsal, a kind of decathlon. And we didn't know it, but only 3 of these children had ever been in movies before. So, in a sense, just like the story on screen, Julie Andrews was teaching them how to find their confidence.
I always did feel an obligation to help them get their close-ups and things like that. So I would tease them off camera or do anything I could to kind of get them.
You did supercalifragilisticexpialidocious backwards for them, right?
I think I must have. I think they asked me to.
Docious.
Docious aliexpiasticfragicalirubus.
Right.
Yeah. Easy.
I'm saying
easy.
right to you. Congratulations. You can do it.
After all, Julie Andrews knew a lot about being a gifted child trying to find her way. A sensitive girl given a once-in-a-century voice. Just listen.
How old are you?
I'm 12.
What are you going to sing for us?
I'd like to sing the Polonaise from Mimi.
That note, a phenomenon, an impossibly clear high F. She had the audiences cheering, unaware of the broken places inside that little girl. When she was small, her mother left her and her father, then returned with another man and a house full of alcohol, anger, and disappointment. She says as a child, she couldn't sing sad songs without crying.
No, I could not.
She said at some point, dread got planted in your soul because you had seen how quickly
Things disintegrate.
things disintegrate.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky because I did have an identity, and that was my singing voice. I think if I hadn't had that gift, I'd have been a very lost and extremely confused or lonely little girl.
She stopped school at 15, but kept singing and helped support her mother and stepfather. And right before The Sound of Music, she had become a big star on Broadway, including in My Fair Lady. She was also a big star on TV. This is a special with Carol Burnett, and ironically, the two of them ridicule the gooey schmaltz of a Broadway show called The Sound of Music.
I never dreamed that I was one day going to be asked to do The Sound of Music. How could I possibly have known?
I'm Mama.
I'm Papa. I'm Pedro. I'm Franz.
Yeah, we are the happy Swiss family Pratt. We bring you a happy song that I used to sing when I was a happy nun.
Back home in Switzerland.
I'm Carl Philip Friedrich.
And Carol was Cynthia.
I'm Cynthia.
But for all her fame on TV and the stage, when they were casting The Sound of Music, movie audiences had never seen her. She had shot 2 films, including Mary Poppins, but they hadn't been released. A certified movie goddess, Grace Kelly, was vying for the part, and someone else was a logical choice, too.
So, true or not true, they were looking at Doris Day?
Que sera, sera.
Well, she was the great star of the day that sang. And, but how lucky can I get?
The director decided to choose this relative newcomer to film. He also chose another stage actor, Christopher Plummer, for Captain Von Trapp, instead of Sean Connery or Richard Burton. And the children? Well, look at this audition tape for the role of Liesel. Recognize her?
I am 16, going on 17.
That's Mia Farrow trying out. Kurt Russell, Richard Dreyfuss. Some of the Osmond brothers tried out but were rejected. Instead, the director brought together a group of relative unknowns in Austria to make a musical, no guarantee of success. When one of the smaller children, Marta, loses her 2 front teeth, the props department is ready with substitutes. When Frederick begins to grow 6 inches in 6 months, his sibling Liesel has to use boxes to make her look taller. But something about these children invited 4 generations of kids watching the film on screen to imagine themselves as part of the household too. Everyone saying,
I want her to be my mother. You know, online, people say, I want Julie Andrews as my mother.
I know, if they only knew, poor souls, because Mum was very busy.
Busy showing the children what a voice teacher told her once. Amateurs practice until they get it right. Professionals practice until it cannot go wrong. Her signature, feel the lyrics, the words. Feel where they're taking you.
Just wait.
At the end of a song, follow it, follow it, follow it, follow it. All the way down the road.
Or two.
And then stop.
The kids said the most amazing thing. They said that they never saw you make a mistake.
What?
Yeah.
Just playing the guitar alone, I would curse under my breath.
And the 50th anniversary DVD has more photos from behind the scenes.
Oh, don't! A dear.
Photos that show the work that eventually produced the clockwork perfection of songs like Do Re Mi.
A name I call myself.
Toward the end, they enter the gardens of Mirabel Palace near Salzburg, so we decided to go there too.
Hi.
Some Sound of Music pilgrims are arriving.
So, are you American? Canadian. What song is sung here? Do Re Mi. What song is sung at the gazebo?
16 going on 17.
So we asked these fans if they'd like to make their video doing the fountain dance.
So come on, we're going to try it. We're going to see if we can get it in tribute. So as best I remember it, here we go. We're going to go left foot first.
Yeah.
Do, a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of golden sun. Me, a name I call myself. This is very high pressure choreography. Do, a deer, a female deer. Don't make us go so fast.
Finally, we're off.
Do, a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of golden sun.
A name I call myself. A long, long way to run.
So,
Oh, well, I mean,
me,
no, well,
something.
yeah, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Yeah, that's it. You're no help at all.
I'm such a terrible sidekick.
But all I know is that here it's do.
Oh, exactly. Which was you decided to volunteer an octave.
An extra octave. Well, because I could, and so I did.
Next, what really happened during that romantic scene in the gazebo? And the emotional return to the cathedral? And that unforgettable walk down the aisle? When we come back. And now back to Salzburg, Austria for the 50th anniversary of The Sound of Music.
I must have done something good.
50 years ago, 2 actors in a gazebo gave the world one of the most romantic scenes on film. The creators were originally going to call this story Love Song. And in that same gazebo, another kind of love at 16.
I am 16, going on 17. I know that I'm naive.
So we went to find the gazebo, which turns out to be very small.
1, 2, 3, 4 arm spans.
So how did they do this? They built a bigger gazebo in Hollywood. Charmian Carr falling through a glass panel, injuring her ankle. She danced anyway. They took the bandage out electronically. As the making of this movie began, the two lead actors in real life seemed like polar opposites. The gracious 28-year-old Julie Andrews and the 34-year-old Christopher Plummer, known as a serious Shakespearean actor who was worldly and wary of doing a movie he thought was way too saccharine. In fact, the rumor is he was drinking a little during Edelweiss.
Chris Plummer has said that he was lit.
Could have fooled me. I didn't know.
All those nuns kind of drove me to drink, you know.
Christopher Plummer, now 85, still irreverent as he looks back at that moment long ago.
I remember having to wait for hours before we were shooting that bloody song. And we were out in the cold. It was quite cold, actually. And I think, you know, while waiting.
And another spoiler alert about the reality inside that favorite romantic scene. Plummer says when he and Julie Andrews arrived for their gazebo moment, they were so tired, so weary, and had to stand so close and sing.
You're that close on the screen. I said, come on, it's not possible. So we both started giggling.
The giggling, can you almost see it here?
What else does the Reverend Mother say?
The giggles went on, and then in a kind of rebuke, the electrical lights began to groan.
Two carbons started to rub against each other. So every time we started a take,
This terrible series of squeaks and groans.
Belches.
And terrible belches and other things. And it sounded like a comment on our acting.
we all broke for lunch, came back completely sober, started a take, and there it was again.
The director stepped in.
So he said, I tell you what we'll do. We'll move you into silhouette by the door, and then you can laugh all you want.
An unexpected film duo becoming friends. They had a lot in common. Both their marriages were dissolving, though his solution was set out every night to play piano and drink. And hers? Her husband, set designer Tony Walton, was working. She was alone in the hotel room with her little daughter, Emma.
Truthfully, I was not terribly happy at the time. I was quite lonely. Tony was working and our marriage was a little rocky, my first husband. And I was there. I did have Emma, but I was so busy. I mean, I literally was almost in every shot, just about.
Did you have a crush on Christopher Plummer? Who said he had one on
Yeah, we sort
you,
of
but-
did. We were never an item, as they say, but now we are the best of friends. We became the best of friends, and that's lovely. Yeah, probably because we weren't an item.
We should have ended up together. We should have had a huge smashing affair. But there was no time, and Julie had her children with her, which is most inconvenient, I thought.
She says mainly she was naive, like the girl on screen.
Honestly, I was such a twit, and I grew up so late that, and I knew so little, it seems. I am a shy human being, and you are too, I think, yeah. Okay, said both of us on camera as we speak.
Believe that, if you will.
Her friend Plummer, the seasoned dramatic actor, worked to help get her ready for their famous fight.
I will not forgive you for that.
Children cannot do all the things they're supposed to do if they have to worry about spoiling their precious clothes.
Julie in her life was not an angry girl. I doubt if she's ever sort of lost her temper.
And he said, let's really have at it.
Well, you've got to hear from someone. You're never home long enough to know them.
I don't want to hear any more from you about my children.
I know you don't, but you've got to.
So, if you could go back and film one scene again, just for the pleasure of it, from the film?
For the pleasure. When Chris and I are dancing, there's a beautiful shot that Robert Wise did was when we passed camera and you really saw the sweep of the dance with the music. That's a glorious moment.
It is a real Austrian folk dance filled with yearning.
And the other one is when he's standing in the hallway and I'm climbing the stairs, feeling very sorry for myself. And he says,
I want you to stay. I ask you to stay.
and she goes, and goes up the stairs very happy. And I love that moment.
Last week, when we went to see Plummer, who is a classical pianist, he told us he had seen the movie again not long ago, and then drifted into a song we recognized. unsentimental star now grateful to have been part of the strangely powerful story and remembering how captivating she was. On another of those freezing cold days in Salzburg, they went to shoot the wedding inside the cathedral just out of the city.
So here we are.
Somehow, the thing I remember most, I think, is the way the church was lit. And you could see through each of the archways as I walked.
And 50 years ago, what was the unseasoned young movie actress thinking?
More than anything, I know it's ridiculous, that I must walk as gracefully as possible, that I must be as calm as possible. And then when I see Christopher, I really did stretch my hand out to him. Great love, great music.
We asked her if she'd like to walk it one more time.
Yeah, I don't have the beautiful veil and the beautiful gown, but
You have your memories.
I do. Oh my God, do I ever. It's a long walk.
How you solve a problem like Maria. How you catch a cloud and pin it down. How you find a word that means Maria. A fairy chicken, a will-o-wisp, a cloud.
Next, for the first time, Julie Andrews goes inside the real home of the real Maria von Trapp as we retrace the escape from the Nazis as it really happened.
And this would have been it.
They're gone!
So different from the movie when we come back. And now back to Salzburg, Austria for the 50th anniversary of The Sound of Music.
Julie Andrews and I are in a car traveling to see something she has never seen before. Hard to believe, but 50 years ago, the movie shoots were on sets and locations, and she didn't have time to drive outside Salzburg and see the real house where the real Maria arrived.
You have never been to this house.
No, I've never seen that.
We are looking for clues about the real girl who left the Abbey. She had been an orphan since she was 9 years old, then a foster child, and then, of course, went to the Abbey and arrived at the villa in 1926. We know how she looked the day she arrived. One of the children sketched her. The dress the real Maria von Trapp was wearing that day. And this is the dress from the movie.
And the dialogue actually says, where did you get it from? I said, well, we keep clothes for the poor, but all of them were gone.
What about this one?
Well, the poor didn't want this one.
Finally, we pull up to the gate.
Here it is.
Well, it is big. It is.
This is the real Villa von Trapp. It had 29 rooms when the young Maria walked up to the door.
Hello.
It's now a small hotel. The proprietors let us in.
This is the original staircase.
Are you ready?
You remember in the movie? The staircase is sweeping in 3 dimensions. But this is the real staircase where the real Von Trapp children came streaking down the banister head first. And no wonder their father used a whistle.
We have a similar whistle here.
The children could go out and play on 8.6 acres, the biggest privately owned park in Salzburg.
They didn't have any mobile phones
No,
at that time.
I guess they didn't.
Enter the strange, boisterous nanny who said she was a kind of tomboy. No one had ever taught her manners, but she did love singing. This is the dining room where the Von Trapp family would gather together. Close your eyes for a minute and listen to their real, ethereal sound. It's a song about their homeland, Austria. It was just over a year after her arrival when Maria married the Baron. He was 24 years her senior, a naval captain. Her real wedding dress? Inspiring the one in the film. And in real life, the Baron was kind and gentle and loved his country more than his life. He put his giant fortune into an Austrian bank to try to stabilize it before the war. bank, and his money disappeared. Then in 1938, the Anschluss, Nazi troops, and just as we saw in the film, when the Nazis asked the Baron to command a submarine for them, he refused.
Contents of telegrams in Austria are private.
They wanted to put up a flag on the house. He refused. And when the family was asked to sing on the radio for Hitler's birthday, they defiantly said no. They knew it was time to flee.
Pamela von Trapp.
And you'll remember how they make that escape in the film. The Nazis are sitting in the audience as the family slips away after a performance.
They're gone!
Then they climb perilously over a mountain to freedom. Well, it may surprise you that the real-life escape of the real Von Trapps was very different.
So we are leaving the house as they would have left it at 6 in the morning.
6 a.m. outside the house, each child gathers up a small knapsack and a suitcase. Maria's about 5 months pregnant. But their path out of Austria was easier. No hiking over a mountain. They just walked a short distance through their gardens to this train station 5 minutes away.
Straight to the track and straight to the possibility of freedom.
Freedom and the unknown. When the real Von Trapps arrived in America, they had only $4 to their name, a bus, their prayers, and their songs.
She was amazing and brave. And I wonder how she felt when she came down to view us filming her life, to watch us.
There's a tiny moment in the film where you can see Maria Von Trapp in the movie of her life. There, with her, a daughter and granddaughter. Watch the scene again. That's Maria in front. Later, she appeared on Julie Andrews' television show.
How was I? Huh?
How was you?
Yes. As you.
You were absolutely wonderful.
But she did have a quibble. That yodel? The real Maria shows how it's done. Another song from the mountains of her beloved Austria, where the movie symbolically captures the courage of a family forced to leave the country they love. Where they walked, high in the Alps, there is a rugged little flower that somehow clings to the rocks and survives in the wind and the snow. Edelweiss, the last song lyricist Oscar Hammerstein wrote before he died of cancer. A song for everyone of every age who still dreams of that place they called home.
And the last word of the last song is forever.
Bless my homeland forever.
Next,
Please enter.
the startling thing the real Mother Abbess said about the movie. When we come back, we continue with the untold story of The Sound of Music. Once again, Diane Sawyer.
March 1965, The Sound of Music premieres in New York City. At the time, America is a nation grappling with Vietnam and the bloodshed in Selma. Some critics called the musical a sugar-coated lie, but the audience spoke for itself and made it the highest-grossing movie musical of all time.
Did you know people would need this film?
I think no one, none of us, could have predicted the success of that movie.
And what about those vibrant children in the movie? Where are they tonight? 50 years after the groundbreaking film, well, they're a little bit older, as you can see in the photos, then and now. And now practicing professions that range from software engineer to interior designer, leaving the singing to a new generation of former children coming forward to pay tribute. Carrie Underwood famously singing it live on TV in a lower key. And then at the Oscars, Lady Gaga practicing 6 months to sing the same high notes as Julie Andrews.
The hills fill my heart with the sound of music.
When Andrews walked out, the surprised audience gave her a standing ovation. Gaga shaking so hard you can see Julie asking, "Are you okay?" The woman who made these songs famous can no longer sing those notes herself. In June 1997, she had a problem in her throat, strained from performing so long on Broadway. It was supposed to be a simple procedure to correct it. When it was over, her singing voice was gone.
You sang in a movie. You sang in The Princess Diaries?
Very, very lightly, very briefly.
Dear little girl, you are terribly blessed, but it's your heart of gold I love the best.
I didn't have a voice really at that point, but it was nice, just for a second. I've got some bass notes still, because I had that miserable operation, which I really can't talk about.
It's part of a legal settlement years ago.
I still do have about 5 bass notes, so I could do a good blues song or a version of Old Man River if you really wanted it.
You had to wrestle with depression.
I did.
She had 4 additional surgeries, but her voice never returned. She began to write children's books with her daughter Emma, now all grown up, but she was struggling.
I was carrying on and wallowing in my misery one day, and we had begun writing our stories together, Emma and I, and she said, "Mom, you've just found a different way of using your voice." And it was as if a great weight dropped from my shoulders.
So it's not bittersweet and you say, "Oh, I want to hit that note again."
Well, yes, that I do. Notes, yes. High notes, yes. The octave that I go at the end of the do, re, mi, and all of that. Would I like to do that? Yes. I probably wouldn't be singing these days anyway, because I'm very old and voices get a little tired. But I'd like to be able to have a go at it. I really would.
Before we leave Salzburg, I head up a hill toward the real abbey where Maria von Trapp once gave herself to God. Today, fewer than 24 nuns still live inside.
Thank you very much.
Please
This is
enter.
a great privilege. Thank you very much.
This is the current abbess who comes out to meet me and shows me the roof where the real Maria von Trapp would climb up and sing to her mountains. Though she tells me in German, it's quiet in this nunnery. They pray 7 times a day, speak little more than necessary.
What did you think of The Sound of Music?
Oh, I like it. Yes, I like it.
But then the abbess tells me something else. I think I hear her use the phrase Milch sauer.
Jetzt wird die Milch sauer. Entschuldigung.
Did she say something curdled, the milk? I asked the translator.
The only thing Mother Abbess didn't like about the movie, how the Mother Abbess in the movie sang.
Climb every mountain.
When she heard her singing, she thought the milk gets sour.
She says she sings it better.
But I sing better. Also ich singe besser.
But this nun decided her songs are only for God, though she tells me about the central truth at the heart of the film. Only you know what's in your heart.
You have to live the life you were born to live.
And it's never too late to walk out the gates and find your dream.
So what is forever?
What is forever is the joy of discovery, I think. The curiosity. Thank God for that.
The joy of finding what lies over that mountain. When we come back, you will not believe where we find people singing all over the world tonight. Join us as the sound of music soars around the planet.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu. Adieu, adieu.
Tonight, all over the globe, people are singing the sound of music. On YouTube, see them in Italy, Estonia, Argentina. Even when I went to North Korea, the kids sang it. North Korea. They are singing it backstage at the opera, the renowned Renee Fleming in a tribute to Julie. And offstage on Broadway, Kristen Chenoweth. They are singing it in stadiums of 18,000 people out in Los Angeles, while all around the country, kids belt it out in the school auditorium. So tonight, please send us your own tribute to The Sound of Music and go on abcnews.com to learn Julie Andrews' true favorite things. And don't forget that DVD is available now. And you can be assured 50 years later, as the clock clangs down and the bird goes cuckoo, all of us here are singing right along with you. I'm Diane Sawyer. Good night.